Welcome to Cheese in Depth. I'm Michael Landis, and today we're talking with Milton Creamery, and we're very fortunate to be able to have Angie on. And a little bit later, we'll have Jeff joining us, and we'll be talking about the creamery. We'll be talking about cheese making, and of course, we'll be tasting some cheeses. So I'm going to turn it over to Angie, and she's going to tell you all about Milton Creamery. Angie?
Great. Thank you so much, Michael. And thank you all for being here. We are so happy to chat with you and share more about Milton Creamery. So I am the marketing contact for Milton Creamery, and Jeff, who happens to be my husband, is also the sales lead for the team. So we are happy that you're here and excited to share. I want to talk a little bit about Milton Creamery. So we've been around since 2006 and are based in rural Iowa. This is the beautiful sign you see as you are driving into the town, which has about 200 people. So very small, very rural. And we've been around since 2006, so 14 years. This is a family-owned business. So the Musters are the owners of Milton Creamery, and they've been focused on making authentic cheese based on simple and traditional practices this entire time. I want to talk a little bit about the mission of the company. From the very beginning, it's always been important for the Musters to figure out a sustainable business model that's rooted in agriculture, because that is the largest industry in Southeast Iowa. And they really wanted to figure out something that they could do that supports small dairy farmers, creates jobs in the local community, and brings people an amazing product that's created with art and passion in Southern Iowa. So they did years and years of research. I think it was 4 years of research, talking to all sorts of people about viable business options, and landed on cheese, lucky for us. But from the very beginning, community has always been first, and it's always been about the farmers. There's a huge responsibility to the farmers of Iowa, and since the beginning, they've been very adamant that all the milk is sourced from local small dairy farms. When we say local, we mean that all the milk comes within 30 miles of the facility. So we are right on the edge of the Iowa and Missouri borders. Most are in Iowa, but some are in Missouri. And by small, we mean that all of our farming partners have no more than about 120 animals. And that's the largest. Most have like half of that or even less. So the Musters have been very particular about that, and they pay a premium for the milk that comes to the creamery versus selling it just on the commodity market. So this is a great thing that they can do, and a great way to take just the sheer fluid milk and turn it into something that creates added value in the industry. So many of you know Milton Creamery, and our cheese reaches tons of people every year, but it wasn't long ago that the Musters were just selling in small farmers markets only. In this image, you can see Rufus, who is on the right with his hat. His wife, Jane, is on the left. And one of the original cheesemakers, their son, Galen, is in the middle. And this is the family that is still involved, as well as Junior, who is another son of the Musters. And he is in that photo. So now they work as co-CEOs and travel when appropriate, but run the company together along with Miss Jane and about 28 other employees. But yeah, so looking back, our first vat of cheese was made on May 8th in 2006. And since Milton Creamery is based in the Midwest, we focused in the very early days on cheddar cheese curds, which are amazing, as well as young block style cheddars. So they did that for a while, but as time went on, the Musters did realize that they wanted to get into more of the specialty cheese industry. And in 2007, after experimenting with a number of recipes, we came across making our first batch of Prairie Breeze, which is the cheese you know and love, block style as well. And this cheese was created in 2007, but only a few years later won its first blue ribbon with the American Cheese Society. So pretty cool. Has won multiple awards since. So if you know Milton Creamery, you know Prairie Breeze is our #1 cheese. It's considered a cheddar because of the way that it's made, but it's very unique because about halfway through the process, we add a proprietary concoction of adjunct cultures that make the cheese take a right-hand turn, and it turns into that delicious, addicting cheese that you just like can't get enough of. Somebody told me the other day it's just the most snackable cheese ever. So it's super great, and you'll get a chance to try it in a bit. But yeah, so today we have about 9 different types of cheeses that we offer to people to purchase. We have Prairie Breeze, of course. Our Flory's Truckle is also one of the more infamous cheeses from Milton Creamery. We have a number of different flavored cheddars, including the spicy 4-alarm that you'll be trying. And we still sell cheddar cheese curds every single week. So we make them fresh on Wednesdays. People come on Wednesday particularly to get them. And if you are in the area of Milton, Iowa, you're able to actually get them in a number of different flavors too, which is exclusive to the retail shop. But yeah, so that's kind of a quick overview of Milton Creamery. We are still focused on continuing to grow in the specialty cheese market. Our mission of supporting local farmers and creating jobs in our community is still #1. And we hope that we can continue to inspire and surprise and delight you with our cheeses as you taste them in a little bit. So thank you.
So do you want to talk about there's some slides here on the buildings. Do you want to cover those?
Yeah, I could talk a little bit about the expansion, which was something that we mentioned before. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, I can, if you throw up one of those, I can talk about that. Yep, so this is Milton Creamery as it is today. It's really exciting because just in February, we were able to open our brand new facility. It's an expansion, the largest one we've had yet, of about 17,000 square feet. So we are now able to have more cutting and processing and aging rooms. You can see it there. Yes, that's the new building that is behind our original building. And inside there's employee changing rooms and break rooms. We have offices, as well as a place for us to mature about 2.5 million pounds of Prairie Breeze. And every single piece of Prairie Breeze is actually placed in a handmade wooden box that's made by a local Amish man, and it is aged for 9 months. And now it has a place to live right there on site, unlike what we had to do in the past, which is move them all to another facility. So yeah, as you can see there, those are the boxes. Each, I think we have like 15,000 of them at this point. But when you walk into that room, that is specifically temperature controlled for Prairie Breeze, you smell pine and you just get this sense of community overall, and it's a really exciting thing to see, and we're so proud of it. Unfortunately, we cut the ribbon on this facility right in February of this year, but we're still lucky that we have a lot of great partners that are helping us purchase more cheese and sell cheese and get it out there to you. So it's going well.
Obviously, you know, if this were any other type of family or any other type of business, you know, at the beginning of a pandemic, you would kind of put the brakes on any agreements that you made and wait and see how the storm is weathered. But, you know, if you were to ask Junior Musser, you know, what that means to him, he'll tell you that, you know, out here in Iowa, and at least with his family, a handshake agreement means more than any contract ever would. So we said we'd buy this man's milk, we'll buy this man's milk. But to put it in terms of dollars, in the first 3 months of us doing business with this new farm, we kind of compared numbers between what he would have received had he still been working with his cooperative and what he received from Milton Creamery. We were able to put an additional just under $50,000 in his family's pocket to help them basically pay their bills. But yeah. So.
Yeah. I mean, this is so important, again, to who Milton Creamery is, and it helps improve lives in our local communities in Iowa. Obviously strengthens traditions, helps keep family farms alive, which is more important than ever and kind of are going extinct by the minute, and really builds community. So everyone in Milton obviously knows everyone, and that's really an amazing thing and a huge part of why they started. So we love to be a part of that. We also have partnerships with other cheesemakers. So on one of the slides, you'll see a picture of a farmer, and his name is Tim Flory. And that's where our Flory's Truckle comes from. So Tim Flory and the Flory family have been a partner of ours for quite some time. They're in Missouri, not too far from us, and they help create our Flory's Truckle. And Jennifer Flory is the oldest of the 8 daughters of the Flory family, and she started helping create the cheese back in 2007. And then from there, we take the cheese when it's ready and at 2 months, and we age it in our facility. And we'll talk more about that. We have some pictures of that, but just kind of wanted to extend a little bit more about our partnerships and connections.
Yeah, so the partnership we have with the Flory family is another great example of sort of our commitment to local community. You know, this is another dairy farmer / cheesemaker that, you know, manages a very small herd of Jersey cows. Obviously, like Angie said, has 8 daughters who are very talented in making cheese. So we provided them with the recipe, the technique of how to make the cheese, and they produce it for us. It's a raw milk truckle style, which is really, you know, an old world name for a tall cylindrical shape, literally. And it works well for us because all of our equipment, especially our cheese making equipment, is designed for blocks, you know, something that has right angles, 90 degrees. And all of the Flory family's production equipment is designed for round things, round presses, round hoops, round bats. You know, they're the round, yeah, you know what I mean? So they produce the cheese. They will sort of age it out until it's legally allowed to cross the border and exchange hands at 60 days. So at 60 days, the product is brought to us and it goes into our truckle room, which is basically a cheese cave. It's designed specifically for truckle that has the right relative humidity and the right temperature for producing those beautiful microflora that you find on the rinds of a nice wheel of Florys. And we'll kind of nurture it. We do 3 turns a week, which is kind of unheard of with cheeses, you know, for that period of time. But we'll do 3 turns a week for up to a year, sometimes beyond. You know, something like Prairie Breeze is usually done, you know, on the day that the schedule says it's going to be ready to come out of the aging room. But Truckle is a little bit more finicky, and she's ready when she's ready. So aging does vary wildly. It can be anywhere from 12 to 16, 18 months, depending on, you know, when it's ready.
Yeah. Okay, so we want to talk to you a little bit about our cheese making process, and we have a few images of how our facility looks and what the bats are, and our awesome cheesemakers who do this every single day. So at Milton Creamery, we use cow's milk from Iowa and Missouri that we get from those local farmers, all within that about 30-mile radius of our facility. And the cheese that we make is typically done in a cheddar style. Now, when you taste it, if you've tasted it, it's not your typical cheddar, but it is actually called cheddarine, which is a verb. So cheddarine is a unique process where you stack the loaves, which come from the curds. You can see it there, much more descriptive than me explaining it to you, but you basically are stacking the loaves of curd on top of one another, which is what this cheese maker is doing here in order to squeeze out the whey. So that's kind of the process. So halfway through the process, we are adding in, before the cheddaring piece, we are adding in our special cultures to make Prairie Breeze, which is what makes it so unique, and obviously rennet. And like all cheese, it's kind of made of those 4 basic ingredients, right? So that's what it looks like. And then that is a picture of the guys forking after they've salted the cheese and getting those curds all separated, right?
Yeah. So, you know, if you're watching us make Prairie Breeze, or if you watch a video of it from start to finish, it really is a very typical block cheddar cheese make. The things that set it apart are, and would be proprietary, would obviously be our sort of cocktail of adjunct cultures that we use that impart the flavors that Prairie Breeze exhibits when it's aged. And obviously our acidity curve through the make and the different points that we're doing those steps. So at what point do we add cultures? At what point do we add rennet? At what point do we cut the curd? At what point do we, you know, cook and stir the curd, drain, etc.? And of course that cheddaring process of layering the curds to express the whey and drop the pH further. So it is, when people ask us, you know, what is Prairie Breeze, you know, we do try not to call it a cheddar to those types of folks that understand cheese. I mean, obviously it looks like cheddar, it's made like cheddar, but the cheese make and the recipe and the aging process really sends it on quite a departure from what a typical block cheddar would be. So it's kind of a gray area for us. So we just simply call it Prairie Breeze.
And if you know, you know.
Yeah.
So we talked a little bit about Flory's. We talked a little bit about Prairie Breeze. We also have a number of flavored cheddars that we offer. And the most popular, which you have on your cheese board tonight, is 4 Alarm cheddar. So this one, we had to show a picture of our cheese maker putting in a proprietary blend of spices. These are very spicy peppers, from chili to chipotle, jalapeno, and ghost. So he's wearing a respirator and putting those in there and mixing them up. So we have that. We also have a ton of other different styles of flavored cheddars as well, but that's kind of what we do best. We also do fresh cheese curds too, and you have Quark on your plate, so we'll talk through all of those different items. Oh my gosh, yes, that's a close-up of actually Jeff's hand reaching into the vat. I'm not brave enough to be in the room when this actually happens and they put in the spices, because it is so intense, it just takes over your entire body.
Yeah, it's kind of unusual to see cheesemakers wearing, you know, versions of hazmat suits, but it is absolutely required. And I'll tell you, at the end of the day, taking a hot shower is probably one of the most painful things that you can do, because all of that capsaicin that's in the air gets on your skin and in your hair, and it just hurts. Yeah.
But luckily, throughout the process, the cheese isn't as intense as it looks when it's being made. So it can be good for everyone. We wanted to show you a little bit more about the facility, and this is actually part of the new packing room. Is it known as the old spot?
Well, you know, we've obviously built a new facility mostly for aging, cutting, packaging, and shipping. This is the team, you know, every Wednesday, sort of as per tradition. It's something that I'm sure the Mussers would prefer not to be doing anymore, but it's something that makes our community very, very, very happy. Every Wednesday, we offer fresh cheese curds to our community. We also offer them online, but we also really, you know, it's the day that we see all of our neighbors at the creamery. So every Wednesday, you know, they are producing and bagging up hundreds and hundreds of pounds of fresh curds that, you know, all get consumed in the next couple days by our locals. And it's something that it's sort of a throwback to how we got started. So there's a little bit of nostalgia to that. And, you know, while selling a $4 bag of curd doesn't really pay the bills, it does make our neighbors happy. And that's sort of one of our reasons of being in business. So we still do it.
Yeah, people love them so much that they want to know, when are they still warm? Which, if you are in the local area, it'd be between 12 and 2. But yeah, they are a huge hit for sure. One of the next images is of the new facility and is actually our aging room. Yeah, do you want to mention?
Yeah, so one of the, and this, if you go to the slide with all those pallets of boxes, what's interesting is, that's all Prairie Breeze, and, a lot of block cheddar is, vacuum sealed in a bag, put on a shelf and aged, and that's how you do it. But we find that Prairie Breeze, in order to get a perfect, angle on all of your cuts, your 5-pound loaves, your individual retail pieces, you need a perfectly square piece of cheese. And the best way to do that, we found, is to age it in wooden boxes. And the story behind the wooden boxes is we use them because there's a local Amishman, is pretty much an elderly man at this point, who needed something to do, had an excess of pine, really likes working with his hands and likes to build. And his job now is to produce boxes for Milton Creamery. So all of those boxes are individually handmade, hand-nailed, hand-sewn and cut and produced just for Milton Creamery, to the tune of, I think we own over 15,000 of them right now. But as we grow, we still receive new boxes from him every single week. And that's another way that we're able to sort of support our community and provide sort of these tangential jobs out in the community that aren't necessarily related to cheese baking. So it's pretty neat. It's a very large room. It's at a very specific temperature for Prairie Breeze, which is probably one of the most proprietary pieces of information we have. The cultures that we use really tend to be active at certain temperatures. So we call this our ripening room and not necessarily an aging room, because the cheese is indeed ripening. And that room, if you could just smell it, it literally smells like fresh pine. It's really something special. Obviously that doesn't impart itself into the cheese, but it does make a very beautiful aging room. And as you can see, blocks are very efficient uses of space, which is another reason why we like them so much.
And then on the flip side, we wanted to show you a picture of the Flory's Truckle aging room, and where those truckles live out the rest of their lives until they make their way to grocery stores and cheese shops. What you can see there is the truckles are wrapped in cheesecloth so they can breathe, and they are also coated in lard, which allows them to slow the moisture loss and encourage a rind to develop. So again, we receive it at 2 months old, and then they stay in here until they're good and ready. But this room smells amazing.
Yeah, this one smells like the finished cheese. It's pretty awesome. And we don't employ any machines to do our turns for us on our Clothbound cheese. This is all done by hand. Men and women that are in there, several times a week, turning, brushing, just every single wheel 3 times a week until it's ready, which is very laborious, but it's definitely worth it.
Yeah. Okay, so we wanted to give you a tour of all of our cheeses that we offer on the next page. So we talked about, the top one for us is Prairie Breeze all the way